Part 66. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 652. After hearing Marshall's words, the sullen look on Amos's face faded. Marshall really looks like himself. Sometimes he regretted that if Marshall was really his son, he would definitely make him his heir. It's a pity that he is just an adopted son. Marshall continued, these days, Dr. Ken said that your recovery is very optimistic, and I dare to say this in front of you, let the past people and things pass. You should focus on for now and in the future, America's hope rests on your shoulders. Amos smiled and nodded, good boy, you are determined. Marshall touched his heart with his right hand and bowed, in my humble opinion, my whole heart is for you. I know Amos sighed, I have been sick these days, but fortunately you have helped me cope with it. My sleeping situation has improved greatly recently, I only didn't sleep well one night. At this point, Amos coughed slightly to cover up his embarrassment. Marshall knew that night. He also lives in Amos' house. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, the whole world is asleep. Suddenly, a scalp-numbing scream came from Amos's bedroom. The sound almost made people think that Amos had been stabbed in the stomach with a knife. Along with Amos's screams, all the dogs in the mansion started barking. In the end, all the dogs in the suburbs were excited. They were very shocked. People rushed to Amos's bedroom in panic, and found that Amos was covering his throat with his 2 hands, his eyes were moving rapidly, revealing large whites of his eyes, and he was making a whooshing sound from his mouth. He looked very scary. And his little wife, Marlene Taylor, was so frightened that her face turned pale, and she just kept crying. It was Dr. Ken who came overnight and asked Amos what happened. He slapped Amos several times and woke him up from the nightmare. The next day, Amos called Marshall to him and told him to deliver invitations to Fang Wenjian's manor, and asked him to find a way to persuade Fang Wenjian to bring the Chinese star with the same name as Captain Chen Ling. Attend a banquet. What nightmare did Amos have? Marshall was quite curious. Perhaps the curious look on his face caught Amos's attention. Amos said to Marshall angrily, I have received your concern, and now it is time for you to leave. Then, farewell, my sir. Marshall bowed his head and lowered his inquiring eyes. Marshall left. Closed the door. But Amos couldn't help but think of that nightmare. The beginning of the dream is the scene of my adopted daughter dying. Because she had just experienced several fierce battles, she was covered in color. The shoulder was hit by a bullet, and the wound was not treated. The blood dripped down the hanging fingertips, forming a small pool of blood on the ground. Her scalp disappeared together with a tuft of hair, revealing a hideous wound that dyed half of her face red. Amos heard himself say, if he were more powerful, I wouldn't have to kill you myself. Then the leading shepherd dog pulled the trigger of the sniper rifle from a distance. Boom! It was as if an invisible punch hit Chen Ling hard on the back of the chest. The huge impact caused Chen Ling's body to shake violently. However, at the moment she was hit, she looked warily towards the direction of the bullet, and her body reflexively made a posture to protect Amos. Then she fell to her knees with a plop, almost breaking her knees. The bullet rotated and penetrated her chest, taking away part of her heart and lungs. The severe pain instantly penetrated her, she clutched her chest and fell to the ground. She was half kneeling on the ground, her body twitching slightly. At this time, she smiled. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 653. She seldom smiles. Only when she helps herself solve difficult problems and troubles, and hears her own praise, will she be very reluctant to show a little smile. Ha ha, cough cough, ha, cough cough. Chen Ling was lying on the ground in pieces, laughing and coughing blood foam. She covered her chest with difficulty, gasping like a broken bellows, and she tried to look up and look at herself. Her lips opened and closed, as if she wanted to say something. She looked at him, hesitant to speak. Then, she used up her last strength to turn her body over and looked up at the sky. Blood and vitality quickly flowed out of her body. Her dark pupils stared at the birds flying in the sky. After a few seconds, her pupils slowly enlarged, and the painful gasps became weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared completely. Chen-Ling was just the best of the many tools she kept, but no matter how good she was just a tool, and it was no big deal if she died. It was no big deal. But he found that he was wrong. Ever since Chen-Ling died, she had been appearing in his dreams, everywhere. She was mumbling to him. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't hear what she was saying. Until this nightmare, he could hear Chen-Ling's words clearly. Her voice was very light, and she said to him like singing, "I will come back, dear adoptive father." Then, she tilted her head and died. Facing the body of his adopted daughter, he wanted to escape. But his feet, like roots, were completely out of his control and fixed in place. Amos realized that he was dreaming, so he struggled to wake himself up. But no matter how he tried, he couldn't wake himself up in his dream. At this moment, something even weirder and more terrifying happened. The lifeless and scarred body on the ground turned over, and then the limbs were folded outwards, like a giant spider. And a very clear face appeared on the back of the head that was originally covered by thick black hair. It was the face of Fang Wenjian's female companion, a Chinese actress. The woman curled her lips and sneered, "Dear foster father, I'm back." She just like that, with her limbs bent backwards, her knees facing inwards, she quickly crawled towards him, then crawled along her legs, crawled onto him, and used her folded hands to desperately pinch his neck. Asterisk. Amos, standing in the sunlight by the study window, shuddered violently. He subconsciously raised his hand and touched his neck. There was still pain there. Dr. Ken explained that it was Amos who pinched his own neck when he was having a nightmare. Amos exhaled. At this moment, he was alone in the study, and he felt terrified. The way the woman crawled in the dream was really terrible. Ding-ling-ling dash. The phone on the desk rang suddenly, and Amos' heart stopped for a few seconds, and then it started beating wildly. Amos picked up the phone with a curse, but he didn't expect that the call was from the governor of Texas. "Hey, Amos, you ruthless old man, I heard that you were going to hold a birthday party, but you didn't invite me." Amos laughed, "How could I not invite you? My assistant is so slow and is on the way to deliver the invitations dash. I knew that the old man would not leave me out. I will definitely bring your favorite champagne to the scene when the time comes." The two of them chatted with each other very enthusiastically for a long time. Finally, they hung up the phone. As soon as he put down the phone, Amos cursed, "Damn Texas pig, what kind of thing, dare to be so disrespectful to me? Do you think I'm finished? Hey, want to bypass me? No way." The governor of Texas is Amos's political enemy. The family backgrounds and history of their wealth are very similar. In recent years, Amos has always been better. Until recently. This old guy didn't want to come to celebrate his birthday at all, he just wanted to come and see his physical condition in person. "It's time to let go of the people and things in the past," Marshall's words echoed. "Yes. I can't stop here. Chen-Ling is dead. He still has a great dream, to use the power of the Masons to kill his political enemies. He, Amos Joyce, is determined to become the next president." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 654. The servants in Amos's mansion were so busy. The parking spaces in the garage and parking lot were already full. The servants in uniforms guided the various luxury cars to park on the carefully groomed lawns. The servants did not complain at all, because their pockets were already stuffed with tips. They had sincere smiles on their faces and walked with the wind. The maids wore very tight-made costumes and high heels, and shuttled among the crowd. They frequently flirted with the male guests, sending out signals that they could open their hearts to each other anytime and anywhere. The waiters who were responsible for changing the food and snacks were the most tired. Amid the loud music of the band and the laughter of the people, they had to find a way to hear the guests' questions clearly and answer their various questions. "Oh, sir, of course there is seafood in the smoked salmon roll." "No, no, dear ma'am, this is not low-fat cream. Will it cause your allergic symptoms?" "Sir, I sincerely ask you to consult your private physician." Not only did they have to avoid the guests dancing happily on the dance floor, but they also had to run to the kitchen to convey the guests' requests. "Only 1/3 of the chocolate cookies on table 7 are left. Please hurry up and bake them." The governor's wife specifically ordered that your kitchen should hurry up and make her a plate of German sausage platter, which must be served with mashed potatoes with carrots. She is responsible for the nutrition of 2 people. If she faints from hunger, you can do it yourself. This banquet is mainly divided into 3 areas: the outdoor lawn area, the indoor classical area, and the rooftop meeting area. There are 3 long tables in the lawn area, connected end to end, arranged in an open rectangular shape, and piled with a wide variety of delicacies. On the outside of the table, there are chairs for guests to use. On the inside of the table, there is a dance floor. At the rectangular end of the table, there is a temporary stage. The Magic Yellow Band, the most popular band in the United States, is playing hard on the stage, attracting frequent cheers from the guests. People in the dance floor sway their bodies to the cheerful music. Compared with the lively and noisy lawn area, the indoor classical area is extremely elegant and noble. A classical band is in the corner of the room, using cello, violin, piano, and other classical Western instruments to interpret the music of masters. People are dancing elegant duets on the dance floor. The meeting area on the roof is only open to real nobles. Half of the rooftop is covered with spherical glass. With abundant sunshine and suitable temperature, excellent gardeners have retained the summer. This place is just like an enlarged landscape pot. Broad-leaved tropical plants and colorful flowers are in full bloom. It is green and full of vitality. Amos, standing in the meeting area on the rooftop, holding a glass of red wine, stood alone by the window and looked down. On the lawn, there was a figure wearing violet clothes. It was his wife, Marlene Taylor. After all, she was young and liked to be lively. So, when she learned that Amos was going to hold a birthday party, she spent time choosing clothes for herself almost every day, and was even more worried about the order in which she should change her clothes. "Sir, have some snacks." A man in waiter clothes came over with a plate of snacks. This man was a member of the shepherd dog. Well, Amos took a small plate of dried fruits from the plate. "Is there anything unusual with the lady?" "Not at the moment," the waiter replied. "Keep watching." "Yes, sir." The waiter took the tray and turned away. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 655. The Joyce family is one of the few large families in California with a history of nearly 200 years. And Amos is definitely the most promising elite of the Joyce family, not only an excellent politician, but also a businessman who is good at management. Over the years, Amos has expanded his business territory while accumulating contacts from all walks of life. With the help of the United Freemasonry, he finally reached a new height in his career. What goes up must come down. When his economy and power reached unprecedented new heights, something went wrong with his body. Many people whispered privately that Amos was terminally ill and was declining. Let alone re-election, it is unlikely that he will survive as governor for 4 years. Amos held a birthday party at this time. Most of the people who came to the party had different thoughts. They wanted to see with their own eyes what was happening to Amos now. Political opponents have to decide whether to take advantage of Amos's weakness to suppress him and surpass him. Amos's vassals decide whether to continue clinging to his big tree based on Amos's state. Ordinary people naturally don't know the twists and turns of people in the upper class. They just want to make more money. The florist who was responsible for decorating the banquet provided all flowers and services free of charge. This is a great honor for the flower shop owner. From now on, he can brag that I decorated the scene of the California governor's birthday party with this kind of experience. The boss will not worry about running out of business. Equally honored, there are also external chefs from high-end restaurants, vying for the opportunity to prepare meals for the banquet. They fully hope that a big boss at the banquet will appreciate their skills and recruit them to work as personal chefs. If this comes true, then their lives in the future will be absolutely relaxed and comfortable, and they can also earn high salaries. The venue is carefully decorated and the meals are delicious and varied. This is a very grand banquet. It was grander than any previous birthday party for Amos. Even the weather was very favorable to him, clear skies, gentle breeze. The temperature in California in winter usually fluctuates around 10 degrees, but today the temperature was as high as 17 or 80 degrees. The ladies took off their coats or shawls, revealing the exquisite and luxurious dresses underneath, all the proud works of the world's most famous designers. They raised their chests and raised their heads, showing off their beautiful bodies with all their strength. The ironed and handmade evening gowns perfectly outline the curves of their bodies, their slender necks, graceful shoulders, slender and tight exposed backs, smooth thighs, and undulating breasts. John Joyce was dying of joy. The guests who came to the banquet for whatever purpose gave Amos enough face, and they also gave John enough face. The guests surrounded John and fawned over him, and the ladies fawned over him if he hadn't had to pretend to be gay. He had already tasted several delicate flowers. Thinking of this, John couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Damn it, that brainless idiot Marlene Taylor has been secretly sizing her up. She even thinks she's disguised herself very well. Stupid woman. What is the occasion? If someone discovered it, how would he explain it? At this time, John noticed from the corner of his eye that Marlene Taylor's iconic Violet was approaching, so he immediately greeted an unfamiliar person in the distance warmly and strode over. A malicious gaze followed John's back. "Dear Madam Governor, is the necklace around your neck the proud work of Cartier's master craftsman?" the female guest asked. Marlene Taylor withdrew her gaze, stroked the necklace, and smiled sweetly. Another female guest next to her immediately said, "Of course, the hair crown on Madam's head is also the work of a master." Wow! All the ladies sighed with emotion. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 656. Marlene Taylor is definitely a top beauty. No matter what circle she is in. Although she is pregnant at this moment, her beauty is not inferior to anyone present. Her face is as rosy as peach blossoms, her eyes are watery, like an ignorant deer, and her brown-red hair looks extremely rich and shiny. She is wearing a violet dress tailored by Chanel, with a high belt. It hides her pregnant belly very well, and her wrist is tied with a ribbon of the same color, with many broken diamonds on the ribbon, shining bling-bling in the sun. And the jewelry she wears is a rare treasure, a ruby necklace made by Cartier jewelry designer a century ago, a set of ruby earrings, and a ruby hair crown, full of nobility. She danced among the guests. Because of her pregnancy, her breasts, which were already very turbulent, were even more amazingly plump. She was not wearing a bra, and her violet dress was low-cut. Every step she took would ripple out of her breasts. The male guests present could not help but keep their eyes on the white breasts. The men envied Amos's good fortune, and the women envied Marlene Taylor's extravagant life. Amos stood on the top floor and looked out. His wife's face was rosy and she was laughing all the time. After all, she was young and loved this lively atmosphere. He watched her slowly lose herself in the praise of the guests. Marlene Taylor was greedy, stupid, and short-sighted. Amos knew it very well. But this kind of woman is easy to control. He can satisfy all her requirements and have a complete her. The premise is a complete her. She must be absolutely loyal to him. Amos's eyes followed his wife to see which man she would favor. At present, his wife only shows special attention to John. Could it be John? John often goes in and out of his mansion and accompanies his wife to go shopping. Just because John is gay and not interested in women, Amos did not notice anything wrong. Until a while ago, he found all kinds of signs that his little wife was cheating. He checked her social circle and did not find any suspicious men. Except John. Amos clenched the goblet in his hand. He invested a lot of energy and money in cultivating this nephew. Before Marlene Taylor became pregnant, he really treated John as his heir. He was reluctant to doubt John. However, Amos recently had doubts. He heard that John had scandals with several female stars. Of course, it is very likely that John put up a smoke screen to cover up his homosexual identity. Although America supports homosexuality, as long as the homosexual identity is made public, it is basically out of the political arena. Amos rarely spends so much time thinking about such a small matter. But he really couldn't let it go, ever since he found that Marlene Taylor's attitude towards John far exceeded the boundaries of an aunt to her nephew, and sometimes, she even showed a loving look like a lover. Especially the last time, when he had a headache and was receiving treatment, Marlene Taylor brought a fruit plate to John, who was waiting outside the ward. The interaction between the two was very strange. He looked down. John had already entered the house, and his wife was still chatting and laughing with the guests. Was he too suspicious? Marlene Taylor was always narrow-minded. What if she was angry and glared at John frequently because John knocked over the fruit plate and spoke rudely to her last time? It was also possible. If John was treacherous and really betrayed him with Marlene Taylor, Amos' eyes narrowed, and murderous intent flashed across his eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 657. Sir, it's almost time for you to speak. The butler came up to remind him, interrupting Amos's reverie. All the guests have arrived at the banquet. Amos raised his head and poured the red wine in the glass into his mouth. Dr. Ken specially approved him to have a drink today. Amos put the glass on the table and followed the butler downstairs. The guests in the corner of the meeting room and the guests in the classical area all came to the lawn full of sunshine. The temporary stage on the lawn, after the band's guitarist plucked the strings for the last time, the band bowed to the crowd collectively, left the stage, and went to the kitchen to find a place to eat to replenish their energy for the next performance. Amos Joyce, in the eyes of everyone, walked onto the stage. Several people pointed their cameras and video cameras at Amos. These are not ordinary media, these media have Amos's shares and are controlled by Amos. It can be said that these media are Amos's mouthpieces. They are dedicated to cheering for Amos and singing praises. Amos can become the governor, and these media have also made great contributions. He picked up the microphone on the stage, tested the sound, and said loudly, "Dear friends. Hello everyone, I, Amos Joyce, am very honored that you have taken out your precious time to attend my birthday party. I feel extremely grateful and lucky." Everyone applauded. Amos noticed that Marlene Taylor was sitting on one side of the long table, and there were no men around. This year is destined to be an unforgettable year. I have experienced ups and downs. Thank you for your support. I am very honored to serve as the Governor of California. However, I am very unfortunately ill. Everyone whispered. He actually spoke frankly about his illness. It wasn't until I became the governor that I realized how heavy the burden on the governor's shoulders was. I am responsible for the people of a state. I am responsible for America. Fortunately, I recovered from my illness. Ha 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 ha. He laughed loudly. His political opponents were disappointed to find that Amos did not lie. Amos standing on the stage did not look sick at all. His sharp eyes and sturdy body were no different from the man known as the Lion in his memory. The political opponents were very disappointed. I am very proud and confident to say that I am a qualified, even excellent governor. Since I took office, I have solved the employment problem of 13,000 people in California. I have attracted billions of dollars of foreign trade business for our state. I have secured more than a dozen CRRT bedside blood filtration machines for more than a dozen hospitals in our state, each of which is worth more than $1 million. At the same time, the wine produced in California has been exported to Europe and Asia. I remind you that if you want to drink grapes this year, you can only buy them in other states. I wonder if the governors of other states will write thank you letters to thank me for helping to clear their wine merchants' inventory. The crowd laughed. I also secured a lot of sponsorship fees for universities and high schools in California. I won't go into detail here. Finally, and most importantly, I eradicated the cancer that had been entrenched in California for decades, the drug lord Smith. At this time, a high-pitched and sarcastic voice came from the densely packed crowd below the stage. Eradicate? No, you replaced him. You, Amos, are the new cancer of California. Even scarier and darker. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 658. This shout was very abrupt. Before people could react, they stopped talking. People held up their red wine glasses in astonishment. You looked at me and I looked at you. Amos also didn't notice where the sound came from. The man was very cunning and stood in the densest place of the crowd. Moreover, his voice was a neutral voice, indistinguishable from male to female, and he immediately stopped speaking after shouting. Amos stood on the stage, and no one could see anything unusual. Everyone was watching. Outside the crowd stood a dozen bodyguards in black clothes. 3 of them are members of the H-Force, 2 team members, and Captain Nolan. Amos looked across the crowd and landed on Nolan's face. Nolan nodded and took action with 2 team members. But the question had already been asked, and if Amos remained silent, it would appear that he was guilty. Amos is indeed an excellent politician. He has been questioned in public countless times. At this moment, there is no strange look on his face. He is still so kind and friendly. He uses a gentle and convincing tone. I said on the day I was inaugurated as governor that people are welcome to ask me questions, and I am very happy to answer any questions you raise. However, I hope you can stand up like a man and ask questions in an upright manner. I am not a chicken with a weak belly. A person, let alone a mafia organization, will never take any retaliation against you. However, if you dare not show up, it will only prove that you are a villain who secretly spreads dirt on others and falsely accuses others. I will never condone this kind of thing. Amos held the microphone and looked into the crowd. The doubtful looks on people's faces have faded a lot. The voice did not appear again. Amos took out his phone from his pocket, unlocked it, found an email and read it slowly. After I wiped out Smith's drug nest, I transferred all his property to the National Treasury. Congress has detailed information. Smith is a desperado and knows that he is in the business of losing heads, so he has always been extravagant. The amount of cash we seized is not that shocking, his life is extremely luxurious, even the bathroom mirror is inlaid with emeralds. Gemstones, if you are interested, you can visit the State Museum. I think the curator there will be happy to explain the origin of the antique mirror. And the drugs I seized were not kept privately, but were all publicly donated to several major hospitals. Everyone must know that drugs are very valuable in hospitals. If used properly, they can help patients relieve their pain. I just saw the director of the state hospital. Amos looked among the crowd. A tall, bald man wearing glasses waved his hand. People looked at him. He pushed up his glasses. Mr. Amos has indeed generously donated a large amount of raw materials for analgesics to our hospital. I can guarantee on my reputation that what Mr. Amos said is true. Everyone believed even more that the man before was just spreading rumors to throw dirty water on Amos. People thought the man would never speak out again, even Amos thought so. However, the voice appeared again. Of course you don't care about the drugs and money in Smith's warehouse, because what you care about is the drug business with a global trading network. And you have successfully swallowed up the entire drug trafficking network. A reporter found out your deeds, and everything you did, were made public. The poor reporter was assassinated by someone that night, and you falsely accused him of an accidental death due to a drunken fight, and his wife was accused of being wronged by her husband. You were forcibly sent to a mental hospital. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 659. This man had been shouting unscrupulously for so long, and naturally he was immediately targeted by the people around him. The people around the source of the sound quickly dispersed. Only a man with an incomprehensible face was left. He had light gray hair, brown eyes, white skin, freckles on his cheeks, wearing black round-rimmed glasses, and was extremely thin, wearing a brown suit. It appears very wide. He found it very puzzling that the people around him quickly avoided him and looked at him with different eyes. Nolan and two members of the Rangers squeezed through the crowd and came to the man. At this moment, there was a large open space around the man. "Hey, man, hands up," Nolan pulled out his gun and pointed it at the man. When the man saw that Nolan had taken out a gun, he was so frightened that his hands softened. The red wine glass in his hand fell to the grass, and then he made a quick gesture. Etc. Made a gesture? Amos frowned. The man gestured excitedly and quickly. Nolan held the gun and pointed it at the man motionlessly. People around him also reacted. "Do you think this person is deaf-mute?" At this time, someone recognized the identity of the man with glasses and whispered, "Isn't this the English screenwriter Gunter Frank who is famous for criticizing Asians?" From outside the crowd, a man squeezed in, a lawyer from a legendary law firm in England. He was the guest Amos invited this time. When the bespectacled man saw the lawyer, he walked toward the lawyer as if he was seeing a savior. "Hey, don't move dash." Nolan's gun was blocked between the man with glasses and the lawyer. Although the man with glasses is deaf-mute, he is not blind. Seeing Nolan's muzzle close at hand, he was too frightened to move. The lawyer was wearing a black suit, and his sleeves were slightly wet. It seemed that he had just come out of the bathroom and was unaware of what had just happened on the lawn. He looked at Nolan in astonishment, then at the man with glasses, turned to Amos who was standing on the stage and said, "Hey, Amos, what did my companion do wrong? Do you want to treat him like this?" Amos said nothing. Nolan did not put away his gun. The muzzle of the gun was still firmly locked on the bespectacled man, but he turned to the lawyer and said, "Is your friend pretending to be deaf-mute, or is he really deaf-mute?" The lawyer's face immediately turned serious. "Deaf-mute? What happened to the deaf-mute? Are the deaf-mute guilty? Or does the noble governor think that disabled people are not qualified to attend your banquet? At this moment, the joking and mocking voice sounded again. Hey, are you guilty of being a thief? Governor. The voice actually came from the man with glasses. Everyone saw clearly, but the man with glasses did not speak. The man with glasses couldn't hear any sound at all. He found that people were looking at him again, and he felt even more scared. No, I shouldn't call you governor, I should call you the new generation of drug king. You have done more than Smith before. You let your men sell drugs around universities and high schools. Children lack life experience, like to pursue excitement, and have no self-control, and they immediately fall into the vortex of drugs. What's more, you and the others are still very young. As long as you get involved with drugs, you will never let it go for the rest of your life. Your drugs will not be sold. I have to praise you. You are indeed a successful businessman and you are very good at running a business. Nolan stood close, and he already discovered that the sound came from the pocket of the man with glasses. But Nolan couldn't search. He didn't have the power, and he didn't want to scare the man with glasses. So, he lifted up the back of his clothes, put the pistol on his waist, and said to the lawyer, "Your friend may have a player stuffed in his pocket. I hope you tell your friend to take out the player bar." The lawyer now understood what had happened before. After the lawyer nodded to Nolan, he quickly gestured to his friend to explain everything. The fear on the bespectacled man's face was replaced by surprise. Then, under the gaze of everyone, the bespectacled man put his hand into his pocket and took out a finger-sized micro player from it. The sound came from the micro player. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 660. Nolan carried the player, so that the sound of the player was clearer. My Lord Poison King Amos, you not only make money for yourself, but you also provide the opportunity to make money to your family, your nephew, John Joyce, who has benefited greatly from it. Nolan turned the player, but couldn't find where the switch was. This is a very cleverly modified player. The entire cylindrical player is covered with mesh metal and there is no gap to be found. X-312 road construction project, you handed it over to your nephew John. Everyone should know that there was a traffic accident not long ago, and a section of less than 10 feet of protective net was damaged. That poor man was asked to the repair cost was more than $5,000, because the company underwriting this section of the project quoted this price. In fact, a 10-foot protective net was worth at most $100. Think about it, X-312. How long is the protective net on the road? Everyone knows how much money John makes. John, who was standing under the stage and closest to Amos, turned pale in an instant. At this time, Amos couldn't bear it anymore and yelled at Nolan, "Shut up! Now! Now!" Nolan threw the player to the ground without hesitation and stepped on it hard with his big leather boots. The player instantly collapsed under Nolan's strong stamp. The sound also stopped suddenly. Under the gaze of everyone, Nolan bent down and picked up the smashed player. At this time, everyone fell into an even quieter silence. Amos felt his temples throbbing with pain, but he had to work hard to suppress the pain and force his brain to work quickly. The accident on the road has been handled, and handled very cleanly. Where did the news leak out? Who is this person who openly provokes me like this? Amos' eyes fell on the face of the Texas governor in the crowd. The old man's face was red, it could be seen that he was trying his best not to smile happily, but the corners of his mouth were grinning widely, and it was obvious that his efforts were not very successful. No, it won't be him. Or his strongest business competitor Hobson Harris. No, No, it won't be him. He doesn't have such powerful means or the courage to openly challenge himself. Could it be the FBI? But the FBI could have taken him away for investigation instead of using this method of publicly humiliating himself. Humiliating Amos is tantamount to humiliating the American government and the American people. The FBI will not do that. Who is he? Nolan held the cracked player in his hand and looked at Amos, waiting for instructions on his next move. Amos tilted his head back slightly. He meant to ask Nolan to leave and go back to investigate the source of the player. Nolan then put the remains of the player into his pocket and walked out of the crowd. For a moment, Nolan's eyes met John Killen, who was standing in the crowd. The two people's eyes met for less than 0.1 seconds, and they naturally missed each other. No one had a strange look on their face. Nolan left the meeting. Amos on the stage had given up thinking about who was behind all this. He must prioritize solving the immediate problem and stabilizing the current situation. None of the guests present dared to breathe, for fear that Amos would get excited and simply wash away the place with blood. They had also heard of Amos' ruthlessness. However, Amos's psychological quality is obviously stronger than they imagined. Amos suddenly burst into laughter. Laughed for half a minute. People looked at each other with laughter. After half a minute, he stopped smiling. Afterwards, Amos took the microphone and said to the lawyer in black, "My friend, please apologize to me and your companion for causing trouble to him because of me. I very much hope that he can accept it. My apologies and enjoy the rest of the party." Amos's voice was sincere and commanding, showing no trace of panic. Human beings are concrete creatures. They perceive things around them through their senses, thereby forming perceptions and knowledge. A powerful politician will take advantage of this to create an image of himself as credible and majestic. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 661. At this moment, Amos behaved so calmly, politely, and very gentlemanly so, people subconsciously felt that Amos was upright and innocent. The lawyer looked at Amos, as if judging the credibility of his sincerity, and finally nodded. Then the lawyer turned around and quickly gestured to his deaf-mute friend to explain all this. A smile quickly appeared on the deaf-mute friend's face, and he quickly gestured to the lawyer. Even if people can't understand sign language, they can still see that when the bespectacled man gestures, his movements are brisk and lively. The lawyer nodded after reading his friend's sign language, turned to Amos on the stage and said, "Mr. Amos, my friend said he is willing to accept your apology. I am very grateful to your friend for your generosity and for not being blinded by others." Amos breathed a sigh of relief and bowed deeply to the audience. Although he cannot hear, his heart is bright. I have suffered too much criticism. People can't help but feel ashamed. Are they actually inferior to a deaf-mute person's ability to distinguish right from wrong? It is too easy to spread rumors. Amos noticed the crowd's looseness and immediately struck while the iron was hot. He rubbed his temples, showing a tired look, and said slowly, "When I stand in this position, I become a living target, including my family. They will all be attacked by the bad guys. Object. No matter how good I am, they still find ways to throw dirty water on me. They frame me with unfounded charges, they create trouble for me, and they make up lies. I know their purpose. They want me to defend myself. To prove what I did and didn't do. Then how can I still have the energy and time to benefit the people of California and create a better future for the people of the United States? I stand here and tell those rats hiding in the gutter clearly that your tricks are of no use to me and you will never be able to hurt us. And wise people, my wise friends, will not be deceived by your siren's voice." Amos clenched his fists and spoke plausibly. He thought everything was over. However, he relaxed too soon. The voice sounded again, and this time, it was louder and clearer than before. The sound came from the building behind Amos. "Amos, to be honest, I feel sorry for you. You have no idea what's happening to you. Amos gripped the microphone very hard. Damn it. The other party did it on purpose. He gave himself a chance to quibble, to see that his efforts would save his image, and then once again found a way to make his efforts ridiculous. People looked up at the tall villa behind Amos. On the exterior wall between the windows on the third and fourth floors, you can vaguely see miniature players stuck there. There are 6 in total, so everyone present can definitely hear it clearly and clearly. I think you are so pitiful, so I am very merciful and tell you. Tisk, I am such a kind and good-hearted person. Your gay nephew is a cruel, cold-blooded snake with long fangs. He is not gay, but bisexual. He used the money you gave him to get pregnant with many girls. One of them is only 13 years old. Amos froze. He slowly aimed his gaze at the face of John, who was standing in the audience. John's eyes were slightly bulging, he was sweating profusely, and his face was pale. As early as the first time the other party mentioned his name, John was so frightened that he was half drunk. But at this moment, the things he had tried so hard to hide and kept secret were actually known to others. How much does the other party know? Does he know that the child in Marlene Taylor's belly is his John's? John felt like he was going to faint. And the look in Uncle Amos's eyes made John even more heartbroken. At this moment, a woman's heartbreaking shout came from the crowd, "Oh, Johnny John's nickname, am I not your only love? You clearly promised me that when you take over the Joyce family, if you own the property, you will marry me. That's why I aborted the child. It turned out that you were lying to me." When John heard this voice, he trembled all over and turned around in disbelief. His German mistress walked towards John step by step. "Is she in Germany? Why did you come to California to attend Amos's birthday party? Amos, why would anyone let people intrude into the California governor's private birthday party? Only with a unique invitation letter and checking with the guards list can you enter the venue. And, where was she before?" John had been wandering around all morning, but he didn't notice that she was here too. At this time, another question came from the crowd. This woman's English has a distinctly French flavor. An extremely beautiful girl, wearing a slightly loose dress, people can see that her belly is slightly protruding. John, a 13-year-old girl? You are a beast. Someone told me that you are such a bastard, and I still don't believe it. I will abort the child in my belly. I cannot allow a child with your evil blood, born into this world.